Hello, welcome back to It's Not Just a Tuesday. I am so happy today to have Julie Booksh with me. She is going to be sharing a little bit about her story and how she navigated to the place where she is, where she's able to help people. What I see is that she's able to help people just uncover the freedom of who they are and really feel okay with that. That's my version of what you do. But she's going to share a little bit more about that and talk to us about her story and her Tuesdays. So Julie, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thanks for having me. You
So,
summarized that quite well, actually.
oh, good. I love it.
Mm.
So tell us a little bit about your journey because you have a very unique story into therapy and the work that you do now, that I think a lot of people probably can relate with who are in transition or trying to
Mm,
find life's purpose or whatever it is we're trying to find.
mhm.
So let's just start by you telling your story to hear.
Yeah, I'd love to tell my story, even though at the moment I'm noticing, like, oh, my story makes me tired. And
Oh,
I
I
think
feel
that's
that.
interesting. I think that's interesting to notice, and I'm big at noticing what's going on in us in the moment. So that's just
Mhm.
a funny thing I didn't expect. But I
Wow.
will summarize it because, how long do we have? Um, I was I was 24 years old, and I was in a marriage that I did not think I wanted to be in anymore, and which was a huge, like, "Oh, no, you don't do that," um, in the religion that I grew up in. So, I was also an accountant at the time, and so at that time, or maybe wasn't an accountant yet, but was in business, I went to see a therapist to help me get some discernment around,
Yeah.
what do I do with this marriage that I don't want to be in for lots of reasons.
Right.
And through that process of therapy and uncovering and discovering my own feelings, learning how to be okay with my own feelings, that my feelings were okay, and all of these things, I started to question. I did leave that marriage. And after that, started to question everything. Now, the
Mhm.
questioning has never ever stopped for me, and it never will. But I
What I love
started to
about you.
question, why do I believe what I believe? Do I
Yeah.
believe the religious tradition I grew up in? Why did I choose the job that I chose? Why do I choose the relationships that I choose? And this real deep self-discovery process. And through that, the idea of switching careers came up. And it was a struggle because I was like, do I just love all of this because of what I'm going through in my own life? Or is this really a calling? And
Mhm.
that process took about 5 years probably for me to finally say, well, actually, my therapist at the time said, "Why
Right.
don't you just go take a class at night?" And that's what I did. I could keep my job that
Wow.
way, went to school at
Yeah.
night, and that's how I became a therapist from
That's
all of that.
right, right.
Yeah.
That is I and that's why I say I think that that's really important because what a risk, right?
Yeah,
To make a life shift, but also I feel like even if it's a little life shift, I think that sometimes we're scared of asking ourselves those questions, especially professionally, especially if you've already gotten into a thing where, I'm often talking about branding and who you are and your reputation and things like that. And it's a risk to shift your identity.
absolutely.
Um, and I think that questioning sometimes we get scared of, both
Oh,
professionally and personally, right? If
it's
you
terrifying.
identify as a married Christian woman or a married accountant or whatever, I think it's so hard to say, "Wait a minute, if I identify as this, who will I be if I'm not that?"
Right.
And I think it's, both professionally and personally, it's so important to ask those questions. I think, like I said, it's what I love about you because I'm the same type of person. I really am always asking myself so many questions like, do I love this or what is this and why do I feel this way? And I resonate with the my story makes me tired when I tell it too much,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I remember big chunks of life where just the thought of how I got here was so exhausting. And sometimes I think it just means you're still I mean, we're always still in it, right? But we're still in it. You're still in the get there because there's no
Well,
there.
we're always in that. We're always in the
Yeah,
still get there as long as we're breathing. Hopefully, we're always
right.
still in it. And
Yeah.
I think the exhaustion part, and this is just me riffing today, who knows the specific meaning. I don't think there's like, "Oh, it means this," all the time.
Right.
Like, it's so
Yeah.
clean cut, right? But I think sometimes it's just a reminder that to take notice of the paths we've taken, the things that we've done.
Yes.
We can
Yes.
stay stuck in the always trying to achieve the next thing. We
Mhm.
can even stay stuck in the becoming who I really
Yeah.
am, even, which, is
Yeah.
supposed to be this noble cause, but we're always stuck in the where I am today is not good enough. And I think
Yes.
that the exhaustion can speak to that
Mhm.
wow, I'm tired. And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean I'm doing anything wrong. That doesn't mean something
Right.
about me needs to be fixed. That means I'm tired. And that's
Mhm.
because I'm human. And that's because
Yes.
I matter and my body and my psyche or whatever is saying, "Hey, wow,
Yeah.
let's take a little bit of stock and notice. Oh, I feel tired. Maybe I need a moment. Maybe I need a break. Maybe I need a little
Yeah.
rest," or something like
Yeah.
that. 'Cause
Yeah.
there's all sorts of things wrapped up into emotions and feelings, and when we
God, so
slow down to really get to know them, rather
much.
than
Mhm.
the pop psych culture that says, "Oh, you have this, it means this. You feel this, it means this. You have this, do this about it. Take these 3
Right.
steps. Fix it, fix it, fix it." No,
Yes.
I'm very counterculture on all of that. Um,
Ugh.
no,
Yeah.
there's nothing that
Same.
needs to be fixed, it needs to be cared for and wrapped
Yes.
in reverence because it's
Yes.
you. It's who
Right.
you are. Who you
Yeah.
are is not just about what you achieve. You're a living being of flesh, and this despite the whole mind over matter thing that has its place in our world, but also has
Right.
major harm that it causes. Our manner
Mhm.
is a living being,
Yeah.
and it needs our attention.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
a big part of who we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
That's
is my
so
body, this is me.
it's so good, and it's so I think so much that we forget about because we are always doing, "What do I need to do next?" Or, "How do I achieve this thing?" Right? And so we don't wanna slow down because our culture has told us we shouldn't, right? I mean, I think I started seeing that when my transition from I was a single business owner for when I started my business, and then all of a sudden I was, also married and having a son, and
Mhm.
at that time, everybody was saying, "Lean in," and that was when I started doing a lot of writing, and I did a TED Talk on lean in and then take a nap, right? Anyone who knows
Yes.
me knows how important napping is to me,
Amen.
and it is and we've talked about that before, right? It's on my calendar. I have given, like, pep talks on that I have in my phone a calendar setting that's called a nothing 20,
Yeah.
and I set my timer, it's 20 minutes. Sometimes I need more of a nap than that, but usually a 20-minute reset is enough. But in our especially for women, I think, but everyone, right? It's lean in, do more, say yes, all of these things. And we forget, like, wait a minute, I am tired and it's
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
I said to you before, I said this month has been busier than I've ever been really as a professional and my personal life, just things on the schedule, all good things,
Mhm.
right? And so it's taken more energy for me to make sure I carve out that time to care for myself
Absolutely.
because otherwise I'm just not getting anything accomplished.
Right.
So talk to me a little bit about I love this idea of how taking care of yourself and this questioning piece and just the slowing down piece helps us really discover our story and our authenticity, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the because I am more I like to say I'm a more conscious person as far as just trying to pay attention to how I feel and how I connect with the world around me. A lot of the work that I do, even professional in helping people with their branding and their PR and all of that, we've talked about this before. A lot of that is, well, how do you feel about this? And who are you when you show up for a client? And what type of client do you want to connect with? A lot of that to me just naturally should be a part of what we do professionally,
Mhm.
and we forget that who I am at home is who I am at work, right? I'm the same. My being is the same, and I need to be okay with bringing that. Talk a little bit about what you find and what you hope. I think one of the questions I sent over to talk to say, and we can, however we want to talk about it is good. But I love hearing, what do you wish people were more confident in? What do you wish people were okay with?
Well well, that's probably a long list, but I'm gonna go with you were talking about this whole lean in, say yes thing. And what's been in my field of consciousness a lot lately, and I see it everywhere, is we tend to marginalize the no in us. And because, saying yes is supposedly better.
Mhm.
And I wish people were more confident in their no. I
Oh,
wish
wow. That's
people were more confident in the no that lives in them, that in many cases is dying to come out. Our bodies
Mhm.
show us this. Our and I wanna be careful about that. I'm not saying, "Oh, my body's having this pain because it's my fault because I'm not saying no." I'm saying our bodies help us communicate. Our bodies sometimes communicate for us what we're not even
Mhm.
conscious of. And
Yeah.
so but that's a very deep that's a whole another field of study is the body and body awareness. But I wish people were more confident in their no. Some people weren't allowed to say no. As
Yeah.
women, many of us, I don't want to say all of us, but if I could just do a general statement, we're taught to be pleasing, to be the ones that
Mhm.
fill in all the blanks. In many
Mhm.
ways, because of sexism, we weren't given the same priority as
Mhm.
other people. And now we're caught in this race where we're trying to be equal in a race that was built on masculinity and for masculinity. And
Yeah.
by that,
Yeah.
I mean man, meaning male in some ways, but I don't just mean men, because some men are much more in touch with their feminine side than even some women are. So
Mhm.
I'm talking about a whole, but I wish people were more confident in their no, meaning I don't feel this. I don't wanna
Yeah.
do it, and that's enough, rather
Yeah.
than when we get in our heads, "But I should because of this reason and that," like, my no is enough, and so
Yeah.
I wish people were more confident. That's one of the things I wish people were more confident in.
I mean, that probably covers everything, right? If you break that down, that's it.
Yeah, you might,
Like,
it might.
no is a complete sentence. The business coach that I work with and she's been on the podcast, she calls her way of that in the business world is your red carpet policy and your absolute no's, right? For
Mhm,
client behavior. And she says, "These are things that I will not tolerate." And part of business coaching, and this was really hard for me, I had to make a list of the things that I will not tolerate in from a client.
mhm.
And that was probably like, I still will tear up thinking about having to make this list because it
Oh,
was
yeah,
probably one of the hardest things I ever did. Because we're taught, especially going out into business on your own, you need to make money and you need to work and
right,
you need to say yes.
right,
And all of a sudden, I was shifting an entire society of thinking to
exactly,
say, this is what I will allow for who gets to work with me.
right,
And I think that is, we've started to sometimes learn how to do that in relationships where we say, this is a boundary. If you treat me this way, we can't be in relationship, right?
right,
That's really hard to do. It's hard to do that to ourselves and say, no, I won't treat myself that way. I'm going to give myself some grace. And I think for me, business was like the final frontier of the place I never even considered that I was allowed to say no.
absolutely,
And it's still the hardest thing because we're just conditioned that when you're working, you are to please, right? The
Mhm.
customer's always
Always
right.
right.
We're it's ingrained in us.
Mhm.
Um, and even more so, I think, with the feminine wanting to care for and please. I know I talk about this with my husband all the time. He's like, "Why do you even care about that?" Like
Right. Well,
he,
well,
you
sit down,
know,
honey, let me explain.
yeah, I said the last time we had this conversation, I actually said to him, God bless him, I don't think he's probably not listening to this podcast, so it's okay. He loves me, but he's probably not listening to this podcast. Um, I said to him, "I don't have the energy to explain to you what it is like to be a 41-year-old woman."
Mhm. No,
I said,
right.
"I can't."
Yeah,
I
we're
said, "I
back to
don't
our
even."
exhaustion, aren't we?
Yeah, I said, "I just can't explain that to you. I know, I get it. I would love to step outside of that for a minute,
Mhm.
and I'll get there, and I'll remind myself, but thank you
Right,
for reminding me that it's not that big of a deal, because I need that reminder. Thank
right,
God we have those people in our lives who
absolutely,
say, "Hey, this is no big deal. You gotta it's okay. Just say no and move on," right?
right.
Because it's not natural for me, and I think we we forget really quickly that no is okay.
Yeah.
That's really, really good.
I wanna if I can, I wanna go
Yeah.
back to something because I wanna take it a level deeper. You said when you first started talking about this, it brings up tears in my eyes, and me too. Because when you start to look at the depth of it, you go, "Oh
Mhm.
my god, I can't believe how bad it is." It's like it's I can't believe how much pressure it is. And
Yeah.
and I'll go even deeper and say, we also don't realize how we've internalized. I can't say no to the voice in my head that tells me
Mhm.
I have to do this because if I don't do this, then that. We've
Yeah.
internalized all of this stuff over the courses of our lifetimes, which
And we
means
don't even know we're doing
exactly. And when you start to realize you're doing it can bring tears to
it.
your eyes, and it could bring more than tears, full out wailing
Yeah.
because you look back and go, "Oh,
Yes.
it didn't
Yes.
even realize the weight being
Mhm.
carried and the
Yeah.
pressure and the constant judging and analyzing and fixing, just all of it, the inability to relax, to rest, to say, 'No, I'm not gonna do that, and I don't care if anybody thinks that I'm difficult
Right.
because of it or I'm selfish,' or whatever else might be on that list."
Yeah.
So it's not it's a business thing, absolutely, but it is also deeply ingrained in us,
It
and I
is.
think that when we go even deeper in the battle of getting to know the inner voices inside of us that oppress us, uh,
Mhm.
that helps us in business too. It helps us
Yeah.
in everything. So
Yeah.
we get more
Well, and I think
confident behind the voice that's saying, "No, I don't want to." You know,
yes.
that.
Yeah. Well, I think it it it's making me think right now of even just the way that um I've seen over, I think the pandemic shifted a lot of people so that there wasn't as much of a separation between work life balance, right? We
Right.
saw that happen where because we were on Zooms and we were more connected to our personal life with work, right? Kids
Mhm.
were at home and all of that. And I know that for some people that made the world look messier. I loved it. I mean, I didn't there was so much that I didn't love, right?
Right,
And
right.
it was such a traumatic time for us. That's a separate thing. But to me, it was the beautiful thing that we got from it was accepting people as a
Mhm,
whole person,
mhm.
you know? And I talk about this a lot with a friend of mine who she does organizational psychology and we talked on a podcast also. I'm really just doing this podcast so that everybody I like has a place to tell the things that we usually talk
Oh.
about offline. I'm just like, "Hey, you have really cool things to say. I think more people need to hear this. Can we talk?" But she always says, "You bring who you are." And, in the leadership coaching piece of it, and the psychology piece of it, right? There's the whole science behind how people interact and all of that. But it's because who they are comes to the workplace even if they're pretending it doesn't.
Mhm.
And so I loved when finally, you saw Patricia's cat walk across the keyboard in the middle of a meeting,
Right, right,
because Patricia has a cat. And if her cat is sick, she's going to come to work feeling heavier because her cat is sick, whether
right.
she tells you or not. And that's a part of her life and her work regardless. And so I'm so for this idea that we are authentic about it. And
Mhm.
I think, I say often, it's why I try to talk about authentic branding,
Yeah,
because to me it's not a buzzword. To me, it's the reason that we all do anything, right? Who we are is this unique, beautiful thing. And it's the reason that we want to connect with each other. It's the reason I work with one person over another. It's the reason I like one restaurant over another.
right,
It's who I am likes what that is or who that is. And I think that that's the piece of it that we forget. And I think that's a piece of it that if we do dig deeper, right? And we let ourselves dig deeper and be who we are and say no to the stuff that we're not, we kind of miss out on getting to connect with people in a real way. If we don't let ourselves be who we are, we're
right.
missing out.
Totally.
So, talk to me a little bit about the work that you do. I've follow your work, I read your blogs, and I watch all the any video that you do, I'm always
Okay.
watching. Um, Talk to me a little bit about your work. I love the idea, and I've seen you talk a little bit about, the way the body works,
Mhm.
consciously and subconsciously, but just talk a little bit about your practice and what you do and how you connect with people that way.
Well, I don't have a private practice anymore. All of my work is classes now and
Yep.
small groups. And I love that because when I was in private practice, as beautiful and wonderful, how as helpful as that was for me personally and as much as I like it professionally, there's so much more than what goes on in the therapy room that some people come to therapy because there's a crisis. Some people just looking to develop themselves. But often the thing that gets people into therapy is there's something they can no longer take anymore and they need
Mhm.
help. And
Yeah.
that's good. We need to do that. But there's so
Because
much
we're
more to
problem
learn.
solvers, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, we need help and we need to, it's okay to need help. We all need help.
Yeah.
And that's really
Yep.
important. It's a hard world. And it seems to just be getting harder. Um,
Yeah.
But in my classes, there's so much more that you can't get to on just a macro level because you're so focused in on one specific situation. So teaching has been wonderful for me, and it's again another thing that was calling me out of where it was what I was doing, and it also took me 5 years to say, okay, I'm gonna close my practice and focus on this because you're always, is this the right thing? But going into yourself and that's what I help people do. We're so conditioned to turn away from ourselves because
Mhm.
we've been taught that certain emotions are bad. Certain emotions need to be fixed. Body symptoms are bad. They need to be fixed. They're problems to be solved.
Yeah.
And while all of that might be true, my specialty is not any of that. My specialty is going beyond that and looking at problems as seeds of solutions. So,
Mm.
the thing that you think is the problem is actually part of a calling that
Mhm.
is trying to come to consciousness for you. But we're so
Mhm.
conditioned to turn away from ourselves in those ways because we're taught fix it, fix it, fix it.
Right.
So I
Right.
help people turn toward it and engage with it and invite it in more, including where do you feel it in your body? What does it feel like? Can you imitate that for me? Can it make a
Mhm.
sound? Can you tell
Mhm.
me if it's hot? Is it cold? Is it throbbing? Is it stabbing? I want to know more deeply about all of it because if we don't go more deeply into it, we miss the calling or the message.
Right.
And so I really enjoy people when they realize, "Oh my god, I have this inner diversity," is a thing that I'm always teaching about. I have these multiple parts of me, and I have to learn how to facilitate these parts of me And I have to learn how to witness myself with
Mm.
love rather than criticism. And
Wow.
most of the models we see in the world come from a pathology standpoint of this means that this is wrong with you. And I'm
Okay.
saying this is trying to show you something about what's right with you. And so
Mm.
we want to
That's a
go from
huge shift.
it's a
Like, that's
huge
not the
shift.
way that is not the way we think. Like, that I don't even know, like, as you're saying that, I don't even know that we have the capacity to actually understand that. Like, I mean, that's that's so outside of how we think. That's
Exactly.
that's
And
so
and
important.
you are
Yeah.
saying what lots of people in my class say. It's people are like, wait, hold on. And so then I'll walk them through an exercise. It scrambles your brain.
Mhm.
It scrambles your brain. And I say, yes, let's scramble some stuff because this oppressive pressure making society that we live in is harming
Yeah.
us in many ways. Now, listen, if that works for you, wonderful. I'm not trying to get in
Yeah.
anybody's way, but there are
Right.
so many people it does not work for.
Not
And
working.
people think
Right.
that something's wrong with them when it doesn't work for them. And I'm saying, no, absolutely not. There's the no again. No,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
doesn't mean something's wrong with you. Why?
Right.
Let's look at, let's take an example of like the weight loss industry as just a general whole. Here's a plan for you to follow. Here's how
Mhm.
you lose weight.
Mhm.
Person tries the plan, person sticks to the plan, person falters from the plan, whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
Whatever the reason, the plan doesn't work. Instead of the system saying, huh, maybe we need to tweak the system, we blame the
Mhm.
person.
Yep.
It's your fault. You're not
Yeah.
disciplined enough. You're not committed enough. You're not following the plan.
Yep.
That is soul crushing. And I feel like
Yeah.
it's inhumane.
Yeah.
Again, if that works for you and has worked for you, that's
Yeah.
wonderful,
Love
but
it.
there's a reason that somewhere in the 90th percentile, 90% of the
Mhm.
time, weight loss industry plans do not work over the long
Yeah.
term.
Right.
So it's stuff and we're inundated. That's just one weight loss industry, right? We're
Yeah.
inundated with the ways our bodies should look, the way we're supposed to operate, what the image of success and health looks like. And if it doesn't look like us or how we live, we think that we are the problem. And I'm
Something's
saying,
wrong.
absolutely not. You are the freaking solution.
So
So you are
awesome.
not the problem. You're the
Yeah.
solution, and we need it. We need
Yeah.
you, all of you. So that's I mean, I kind of went on a tangent about my
That is
work, but that's
amazing,
the
though.
work
I
we do.
love that. That is the work that you do, though. That is life shattering in a good way,
Right.
right? I mean, I can't even I think that, just the weight loss industry, you've seen probably some of my journey over the last couple of years with weight loss and all of this major buzz about weight loss medications assisting people. And it's probably a whole nother podcast. I'm talking to someone who is big in this weight loss industry soon.
Yep.
And because I've learned a lot from her, but there was such freedom for me when I said, "Oh wow, it's okay if I get help on this." And my whole life changed. And I no longer think about diet or weight. And I lost weight because it was no longer I have to do this thing. It was my body needs assistance in this space.
Right.
And I gave it assistance. I had help to retrain some habits, but I didn't have it wasn't hard anymore.
Mhm.
And my whole life changed. There was a freedom that came from that that was such a shift. I can't even explain that shift really well yet, I don't think, because it was,
Yeah.
the my brain changed. And
Mhm.
I think if that's only you're right, it's only one area, right? It's only
Right.
one area that society has trapped us.
Yeah, so body issues, body symptoms, emotional symptoms. For women, anger. I spend a lot of time on anger because anger is
Mhm.
one of the most marginalized emotions, as if, you're less evolved or less spiritual if you let your anger get to you.
Wow.
I think that's
Right.
great. That's inhumane. And tell that to a body of people who have been oppressed that they shouldn't be angry. No,
Yeah.
anger is introduces you to your power. Anger
Mhm.
helps you find your no, and anger helps you draw your boundaries. I don't wanna get rid of my anger. I wanna
That
use it. I wanna
okay,
use it.
we're gonna start just having to talk every week. We'll just start recording. You have to just have a practice just so that you can talk to me and we'll let
One
other people listen because the anger introduces you to your power. That's that's so huge. Like that's bec
Yeah, I mean,
and we're
think about
scared
it.
of it.
All of the world's greatest prophets were motivated by anger.
Yeah,
And yet we're trying to tell people, "Oh, don't be angry. You gotta be bigger than that. You
right.
be the bigger person." No, 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 no.
Yeah.
No. And I'm not saying that there is not a use for that. I'm not suggesting
Right.
people need to be stuck in their anger to the point where it is
Yes.
not good for them, where it's hurting them. But when you know how to commune with your anger and connect with it and hear it
Yeah.
and feel it and understand it and let it speak through you instead of just trying to get rid of it, it
Right.
informs you. And this is not
Yeah.
just anger, this is sadness, this is
Uh-huh.
anxiety, these are our body
Mhm.
symptoms, these are
Yeah.
everything. The things that
Yeah.
disturb us, the things that delight us, the things that we're obsessed about, all of it is a sort of personal dreaming that is taking you closer to yourself and the path that you are here to live, which looks nothing like the path that anybody else is here doing.
Right. That's what makes you you.
Right.
Wow. I have to I do that a lot just because now I have this other small human that
Yes.
I'm trying to help him navigate and figure out this stuff in the world. And it's hard because you really don't there those things that society has put on us. I want him to be free of those things, right?
Yeah.
And so we talk a lot about how do you feel? Just he catches me, he's 9 and he'll say, "Hey buddy, just it's in our nature to say, don't be upset, it's fine." And he catches me now because I've taught him this and it comes back to bite me.
Oh, yes.
Mom, you cannot control my emotions because
Yes.
I have taught him that other people can't control your emotions. And I love it when he says that to me. It's, a little annoying in the moment, but
Of course.
I have said to him, "It's you can be angry. That's okay. Let's
Yeah.
figure out why you're angry.
Yeah.
What you can't do is let your anger hurt someone else. What you
Exactly.
can't do is make someone else feel bad because of how you feel. So let's figure that part of it out."
Right.
And it forces me to process that stuff that way because I want him to get to learn it that way because we didn't ever learn that stuff,
No.
because that's not what
No.
society does.
We were
And so,
we were taught
he's
to other.
constantly yeah,
Yeah.
we were told, "Don't cry, don't get mad, don't
Yes.
all that."
And this is what I mean earlier when I was talking about we've internalized all of these
Yeah,
teachings, and sometimes we've internalized it just through cultural messaging. Sometimes we've internalized it because of parents or teachers in our life. Sometimes we've internalized it because of trauma and abuse. And we don't
yeah,
even realize that this internalized voice is kind of running the show, questioning
mhm,
everything we're doing, saying this
mhm,
is right and that is wrong, and just driving us mad
yeah,
and leaving us
yep,
feeling like something's always wrong with us. Something always needs to be changed or fixed about me.
right,
And that breaks my heart.
yeah, because we're not, we're exactly who we're supposed to be,
Mhm.
just figuring it out on the journey.
Right.
Okay, we could talk about this
Yeah.
all day.
Right.
It's so good. So, we're at the time of the podcast where I do this thing with everyone, and I've asked you to do this,
Yes.
where we talk about what's not just a Tuesday, right? Everybody's Tuesday is important. All of those days are part of what our unique story is, and
Mhm.
so, I have found it is one of the coolest ways for me to connect with people and for us as an exercise to help people find the ways to share those unique stories. So,
Yeah.
last Tuesday, next Tuesday, a day that's not a Tuesday that you want to share, what's on your calendar that you maybe didn't think about that was unique? What's on your calendar last Tuesday?
Nothing.
Ooh, I love that. That's a good
Nothing.
Tuesday. Yeah.
I'm committed to nothing. I'm committed the art of doing nothing because we're so caught up in doing, improving, and that's not our fault. I don't
Mhm.
say that as a criticism to humans. I
Yeah,
say that as a criticism to culture.
yeah,
In a way, how can we not be caught up in that?
right.
But so much so that we're disconnected from ourselves a lot of the
Mm,
time for all the reasons we've already talked about today and other reasons.
yeah,
So building nothing into my world has been a huge part of my spiritual practice. It's been a huge part of my creativity in my classes and helping me check myself. And is this really what I mean? Am I being authentic to me?
yeah,
Um and again, this being, this body of mine that carries me around all day really, really really appreciates it when I can let it settle.
yeah,
And, we live in a traumatized world where our nervous systems are constantly firing, and lots
yeah,
of people have autoimmune issues and chronic symptoms and all these different things.
right.
And the art of nothing, the art of doing nothing helps with all of that. It helps us get clarity on problems we're trying to solve. Some of
Mhm,
my most creative ideas come to me when I'm taking a nap
mhm,
or when I'm
same.
in the
Yep,
shower, right?
yep,
When I'm
yep,
really stuck on a problem when I know I'm stuck because number 1, I feel it like psychologically, I know I can say I'm stuck, but even
right.
physically, I will
Yeah.
feel like my head is, I'm just feeling confused or whatever. It's like I'm spinning. I will make myself go lay on the ground. And
Mm,
the ground makes me stop and
wow.
everything can kind of settle. And then you
Yeah,
realize, okay, yeah, that's not even important. This is
right.
the thing I'm trying to get at. So nothing,
Yeah, that
nothing
is
was
a
on my calendar
that is
last
a
Tuesday.
beautiful Tuesday. I
Mhm,
love that. And what, you know, for me, right,
mhm,
in the world that the way that I think,
mhm.
and the reason I'm usually asking about people's Tuesdays, right, is
Right,
to help them with, how are you sharing that and how are you marketing that and how are you
right.
branding that? Because that's part of you, as a business owner, right? That's part of you as a business owner. And I think what a beautiful thing to be able to share the practice of what you teach.
Mm,
The practice of I want to be available as a therapist and teaching these things, so this is what I will do.
right.
Um, and what an amazing example that you're able to set in saying, try this.
Mhm.
Because we are really, we covet our calendars and it's the reason that I ask this question is
Yeah,
because I get a glimpse into people's lives that they don't think is noteworthy.
yeah,
Usually people will say, "I met with this person," and I'll say, "That's amazing. You didn't, did is that have you told anyone about that?" "Well, no, it's just a Tuesday," right? But how important even when the Tuesday has nothing, or maybe
right.
more important when the Tuesday has nothing.
For me, more important. For me.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
specific to me.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
I
the same way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talked about your nap. Sometimes
Yeah,
it's
I do. I
yeah.
have to. Yeah.
I have to have days where I can not have to run somewhere, and I know not
Mhm.
everybody has that ability or that privilege
Right.
all the time, but I think most people could do 5 minutes.
We can find it. Yeah,
And,
I think we can find
I
it.
I used to tell people, go in the bathroom. If you're at
Mhm.
work and you work in a corporation, go in the bathroom
Yep.
and take 1 extra minute in the stall to breathe. 1
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah.
And it starts with something as simple as that. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, the nothing is part of my craft, right? It's part of how I
Right.
I let things reflect, and it gives my
Yeah.
brain space to formulate my classes and ideas. But sometimes my
Mhm.
nothing is literally nothing. I wanna sit on the ground, and I wanna feel how my body feels, and I wanna if it hurts, I wanna let it hurt, and I want it to hurt with
Yeah.
my presence, not with my absence. And I want it to know that I witness it.
That's so beautiful. I mean, I think that, like, that if that leaves me with no response because it's just I I think that we just forget so much, and we've talked about this, and I'm so much the same way.
Mhm.
My favorite moments are nothing moments.
Yeah,
And I think the most beautiful parts of life come from nothing moments. And it, like I said, it's the reason I started asking people for to just look at their calendar, because often we think that only the big moments matter,
exactly.
and only the big meetings or only the whatever, but, taking your dog to the groomer
Ugh,
matters,
taking myself to the park
lunch with a
manners,
friend, right?
right.
Yeah, lunch with a friend matters,
Mm,
and it's those moments that we forget that that's who
yes.
we are.
I'll say this one last thing because I know um, my husband and I always talk about you how quiet and introverts are often marginalized. You know,
Yes.
it's better if you didn't go somewhere and take a picture of it, then your life just doesn't matter as much as
Right.
other people's. But we joke because our favorite weekends are and we build it out this way as much as we possibly
Yes.
can, or when we have 0 plans,
Yeah,
where we
us
can
too.
go to the park, cook, and when people ask us, "What did you do?" A lot of people can identify, you show up at work and people are like, "What'd you do this weekend?" And when he says nothing,
People don't get it.
it's not well received, nothing.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like, well, then it's almost like this status thing. Well, then you didn't do nothing
Yes.
anything important enough. Absolutely,
Yes.
nothing is very freaking important.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that goes right back to you're right, we can close on this, but that goes right back to your saying no, right? That goes right
exactly,
back to allowing yourself, I don't care what anyone thinks. I will say no to all of those plans. I will give
exactly.
myself exactly what it needs. And but, to your other point, if it works for you to do something every day, great, do it.
Wonderful. Exactly.
But whatever you need. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
spending some time with me today. If you're listening to this and, I think, 7 people will listen to our podcast, but I think more people certainly should as we grow. But I hope that you connect with Julie, because I feel like this is just the smallest glimpse of the prophet that you are in
Ugh,
our world right now. And I think that more people need to connect with that. And I'm so glad that you took some time with me today. Thank you for listening on this another Not Just a Tuesday. We'll see you on another Tuesday. Thanks, Julie.
thank you.